It's time to rank all the Demon Slayer characters on how good they are competitively. Every character has their downsides and their upsides, except for you. And after 4 straight weeks of trying out every character in the game, I think I have a pretty good idea of how strong each one of them is. And I could just make the popular tier list, you know, hey, Water Wheel, Rengoku, and Nezuko are top tier, downplay Makomo and shove everyone else in the middle. That's what the community thinks for the most part, but I disagree. There's just so much wrong with this tier list for me, but I hope that I can explain why I think Rengoku, for instance, isn't that big of a problem, along with everyone else. So sit back, relax, and grab a drink, and if it's from today's sponsor, GamerSupps, even better. GamerSupps makes these wonderful and delicious supplements. A couple of spoons of this powder, fill up your shaker with water, mix it up, and you've got yourself a wonderful energy drink with no calories, no carbs, and no sugar. I used to down some big cans of, let's call them popular energy drinks, and I've completely replaced them with GamerSupps. It has organic caffeine, so I'm getting that energy anyway, but I'm getting it without spiking my blood sugar or crashing really hard once the effect wears out. With how many servings these tubs have, a full shaker like this costs about 35 cents instead of the overpriced bullshit I used to drink. And if you follow the link down below with code Globku, you can get free shipping for any order over 30 bucks for the next 72 hours. After that, code Globku will still give you a 10% discount off of any purchase. Getting to $30 on GamerSupps is really easy. All the flavors I've tasted so far are amazing, so there's no going wrong there. You can get a shaker too if you don't have one. They all have great designs if you know what I mean. And if you're into it, you can also get a matching waifu t-shirt. So follow the link down below and use code Globku because, my friends, this is my new drink of choice. Thank you GamerSupps for sponsoring this video. Let's start with the obvious, Murata. Murata has low damage, pretty bad buttons, he's the only character with a bad water wheel. I mean, that thing is paper thin. His assists are also terrible, I think everyone agrees, so no need to spend a long time describing this character. CyberConnect 2 wanted to make a joke character, and they succeeded in doing so. He's easily the worst character in the game. It makes me feel like this roster has 11 characters instead of 12. Now, no one's as weak as Murata, so let's go up a full tier where we have Sabito. Sabito is what I would call the pointless character. He's not completely trash, but it just feels like everyone else does what he does, but better. Sabito's strengths are getting some decent damage for only 2 bars of meter, which gives him some consistency, but there are characters better at doing that. And besides, if you want to spend more than 2 bars of meter, you can get more damage, but not a lot more, so it feels pointless most of the times. His strong attack is the fastest at reaching a full charge, but the hitbox on that strong attack is really weak. He's got some good advancing normal attacks, and his dive actually starts a yellow combo. Usually dives start a red one. Sabito and Shinobu are the only ones that can do a dive into a yellow combo. And he's also got a long range grab. Those are Sabito's strengths, but that said, I think most of the roster can get more damage than him. But what puts him so low for me personally is that I think this is the only character that's actually broken, and not in a good way. This guy needs some fixing. This is what he does for jumping attacks. It's good damage, and it could definitely improve his combo game. But if you do it raw for some reason, the third attack is going to whiff. And if you do it in a combo, the second attack is going to whiff. But if you just start with a waterfall with no attacks before that, it works perfectly. And I feel like a lot of new tech could be found for this guy if this thing just worked properly. But until that happens, he's kind of a low tier. Not bad, but everything he does can be done better by everyone else. So we move up another tier, and this is where we find Inosuke. Inosuke is the king of guard breaks. It's really hard to escape a good Inosuke once you start blocking them. And it's also scary to block because he's got the fastest grab in the entire game. He's also got some good buttons and good reliable low bar damage combos. But just like Sabito, if he wants to spend more meter, it's usually not worth it. He's the only character with an attacking skill that starts a blue combo, though that's not really super valuable for him because the damage he can get off of that is pretty much the same that he can get from a simple attack combo. And even though this ability looks like it has a wide reach, the hitbox on these moves really isn't the best, so catching someone with these attacks can be tough. His Boar Rush makes opponents respect him as it's one of the best reversals in the game. Even though it's not invulnerable, it just has super armor and it's very punishable on block, this thing travels pretty far, so I consider it to be a good reversal. And his jumping skill happens so fast and covers such a wide area that approaching Inosuke sometimes just feels like suicide. That said, both of his assists are pretty bad. They both start a red combo, and he's got to play very solid neutral if the opponent is not the one approaching him. If he's the one taking the initiative and approaching the opponent, you gotta be a really good player to win that against most characters. So I consider him to be mid tier, and we're gonna place him at the bottom of B. Right above him, we have Inokami Tanjiro, which might be my first hot take on this tier list. Don't worry, there's a lot more coming. I'm very comfortable putting him here in mid tier because this was the character that I probably played the most. And everything feels really good about him. Good attack buttons, good skills, good damage. He's got those nasty resets, though what I found is that those resets aren't so nasty after all. The more high level I play, the better the player reactions, and that ability is so slow. You can try to be tricky and place it in different spots, but the reality is players are able to react to that pretty easily. So it feels like every time I go for a reset with Hinokami Tanjiro, I'm just getting punished. Furthermore, I think his reversal is pretty bad. Tanjiro teleports, covers a good distance with an invisible move, and he can combo after it. So it looks good and it works sometimes. Other times the opponent is just pressing buttons and the tracking is just completely off, and the invisibility is also super awkward because you can vanish with that invisible startup, but when you appear you may get hit by a well-timed attack. It's a small window, very hard to aim for, but if there's an assist on stage, they've got a pretty good shot at interrupting you. Now he's got a long range grab, which is really good, even though it is the lowest damage long range grab in the game. That's definitely a tool that I've used a lot. But I also feel that every time I have him as the assist, I'm not getting much off of him. His neutral assist is bad and it's pretty much only used for combo finishers, and the other one is decent, but I'd just rather not have him as my assist. Plus, this man has the highest damage multiplier tied with Shinobu. So every time he gets hit, he takes 1.2 times normal damage. With the resets not being an issue and an unreliable reversal, plus the bad assist and the damage multiplier, even if he has a bunch of good stuff, I cannot place him higher than this. And to wrap up B tier, let's talk about Makomo. Makomo could very well be one of the best characters in the game if she wasn't so inconsistent, was a meter sponge, and had the worst assists in the game. Well, worst excluding you. Makomo is easily the character with the best neutral in the game. She has high mobility, a very high tracking water wheel, she dominates the air game, and a lot of people think she's weak because of her low damage. And while that's definitely a weakness, she would be absolutely broken if she dealt more, because Makomo can get in and out of range like no other character can. It's true, she needs to open you up more times than most characters do in order to take a round. But the thing is, she doesn't have as much trouble as other characters do in getting in and dealing that damage. Even if you block her approach as she gets in, all of her abilities are plus on block, except her reversal of course. She has ways to counter push block, and because she spends so much time in the air and jumping around, it's very likely that if you throw a strong attack or a reversal, you will whiff that. It's matchup specifically, but it happens against most characters. Because she's plus on everything, her mix-up is one of the best in the game. You can see it happening, there's not a big visual clutter, but she's got so many options that it's hard to know when she's gonna keep up her pressure or when she's gonna stop and go into a grab. That said, a lot of this stuff is inconsistent as hell. This is the character that drops the most combos when near a wall. The tracking just stops working. If there's an assist on stage, it's also very possible that your water wheel just won't connect properly. And if water wheel's not working, then this entire character's not working. Plus, as a support, both of her assists are really bad. That water wheel tracking she has as a character is absolutely not what she has as an assist. Both assists are low block stun assists and pretty easy to dodge compared to many others. So, top of B tier for that amazing neutral, and if that stuff wasn't so inconsistent, I could see her climbing a lot higher. Now let's move on to A tier. All the characters on A tier are already super strong and reliable. They're just missing that secret top tier factor. And the worst A tier character on my list is Rengoku, the character that everyone wants nerfed. I don't get it. First of all, the biggest argument for Rengoku is broken, Rengoku gotta be nerfed, is that he deals too much damage and it's cheap. Rengoku isn't even top 5 when it comes to damage in this game. The thing is, his damage is easier to execute, but that makes for a strong beginner-friendly character, not a top tier. Now, Rengoku's reliable damage is definitely one of his strengths that puts him up there in A tier, along with some really strong assists. One of them creates so much visual clutter that makes it easy to mix up your opponent, and if he's the active character, he also gives his partner the same mix-up by tagging them out. Defensively, he's got one of the best DPs in the game, very good advancing move with solid damage, but Rengoku's weaknesses are in his pressure and neutral. Tilt skill can help you in neutral, it has more reach than it looks, but it's not like it's a water wheel. And if the opponent blocks his attacks, his pressure is one of the weakest in the game. First of all of his normal attacks are okay until you get to the third attack, which is just super vulnerable. If he decides not to do the third attack and just go for some skills, push block the projectile and parry the slash, or just step away. Some characters can even reach him after push blocking the tiger. Now, Rengoku deals a lot of chip damage, which means no one wants to block a Rengoku, and Rengoku players can use that to their advantage. But whenever Rengoku is applying pressure on a blocking opponent, it feels like they're gambling, and it may pay off, or it might not. But whatever they do, it just never feels safe, and that's why I don't think he's a top tier. Damage isn't everything, and even if it was, he wouldn't even be a top 5 in the game. Above Rengoku, I've placed Urokodaki. Now here's a character that can deal damage, and at the same time put you in some scary blocking situations and resets. His biggest weakness, I would say, is the traps getting deleted by special moves. Though he can usually parry those attempts unless the player is really good at reacting and catches Urokodaki still planting the trap. Still, the trap itself is plus on block and can be used in combos to devastating results. He's got a water wheel which helps him in neutral, though it's not the best of water wheels. Unlike someone like Tanjiro, this does not travel as far, but it's also safe on block. That said, he has no way to cancel into an ability safely that's plus on block like Tanjiro's waterfall. You may think the trap is plus on block, but the trap takes a while to activate and Urokodaki is actually vulnerable during that time. And you might say, hang on a minute, Urokodaki's water wheel goes way further than Tanjiro's. Yes, if you hold down the button, he extends his water wheel, but at that point it becomes punishable on block, making it really dangerous to use as a neutral or pressure tool. So it should be mostly used for guaranteed punishes, for combos, or when you have your assists available. Other than that, he's got some solid buttons, a decent grab, a good heavy attack, and all of that makes him a very solid character. He's gotta play some semi-honest neutral, but mix-up wise and pressure, he is usually fairly standard, unless he finds a good spot to place that trap. Next up, Shinobu! What makes Shinobu really strong is, first of all, her assists. That's the main reason why a lot of people have her on the team. They're some of the best assists in the game, period. She's also got what I consider to be the best strong attack in the game. Even though it hits at an awkward angle going upwards, she's the only character that can do things after whiffing this strong attack, be it attack buttons, the dive attack, or skills. She's also got really good pressure thanks to her tilt skill, which is plus on block. And because she can do it at any time, she can bait a lot of defensive options. That said, her pressure is a bit expensive. Since she goes up into the air after her tilt skill gets blocked, she doesn't really have a safe way to get back down to the ground unless she spends another bar. Her damage is solid if she uses an assist, otherwise it's a bit low, which makes her an assist intensive character as well as a meter intensive character. And that's the perfect segue to talk about her downsides. Besides being a meter and assist sponge, her grab has the lowest damage in the game, which makes her pressure not as scary. And I actually think her ground buttons are pretty bad. More often than not, these buttons will clash with mashing opponents instead of punishing them, even if you time it perfectly. And her damage can also be partially denied if the enemy switches characters, although in that case they are spending an assist bar, which is really important, but sometimes the trade-off is really good for the enemy. Also, her neutral is better than average, but it is certainly not free. The dash is very powerful, but at higher levels, it starts getting parried easily. At that point, Shinobu players have to mix it up and cancel the dash with a jump or a step, but then you've spent 2 bars of meter already just to fake out the opponent, and it may or may not work. That's the Shinobu risk, and that's why she's a strong character, but not a top tier. Almost top tier though, it's Zenitsu, and I'm so tired of listening to Zenitsu mains downplaying their character. Oh, I only get red combos from all my skills. Yeah, and you still get way more damage by initiating a combo from that far away. No one else can do that. Plus, from an attack, he has the highest damage output of all characters. Are his combos easy to pull off online with lag? No, but that's a netcode issue, not a character issue. I think he's got the second best strong attack in the game, right behind Shinobu. He's got one of the best grabs in the game. Even though the range and damage aren't anything special, he recovers so fast that it's actually very hard to punish the attempt. And he's the best character at punishing you from a safe distance. He's got a good reversal too. It doesn't have a lot of range, but it recovers faster than most, and it gives him a solid combo as well. The assists come out really fast. They're good for poking, but not really good to apply pressure, and if you open up the opponent, it's always a red combo, so not really the best. And the other downside is that first attack button, because this guy just attacks with his entire hurt box. So it's very easy for Zenitsu to get caught by mashing. And it's perhaps for this reason that Zenitsu players often try to play the long range game, punishing from a distance and running away, and he's probably the best character for doing that thanks to how fast his air dash is. To me, he's super close to being top tier, but I'll give you that a lot of his execution is tough to pull off online. And with that, we move on to the top tiers. The worst top tier, in my opinion, is Water Tanjiro. The caveat here being that the laggier a match is, the stronger this character becomes. But again, that's a netcode issue and not a character strength. Tanjiro doesn't need to play neutral against most characters because he has the best water wheel in the game. Even though it's not plus on block and doesn't give him a free combo, it's the water wheel with the best hitbox. I cannot count how many times I got hit by this water wheel while trying to punish it from the side. And it only happens with Water Tanjiro. On top of that, he has solid buttons, his damage is amongst the highest in the game, and very consistent too. He's got one of the best DPs in the game, the Whirlpool advances quite a bit, and he's got plus frames on Waterfall. That said, Water Wheel and Waterfall pressure can be very expensive meter-wise, and if Waterfall gets pushed, it can be scary for Tanjiro to keep up his pressure because he spent that meter and he lost those plus frames. His strong attack I think is one of the worst in the game. Despite the range and how wide it is, it often just catches opponents at the start and then drops, leaving Tanjiro open for punishment. And also his grab is very short range. Even though the damage is decent, I think it's one of the worst in the game. Still, Water Wheel is gonna carry this guy up to top tier, but the better the connection, the weaker I think this character is. And if this game had offline tournaments, I bet he wouldn't even be considered top tier by the entire community. But there's just no way of knowing doing right now. Next, the number 2 character in the game, Gyu, for 5 different reasons. 1. Highest damaging grab in the game, makes it scary to block against him. 2. Water Wheel. While not reaching as far as Tanjiro's, it is plus on block, and if it connects, it gives Gyu a free combo, making his pressure a lot cheaper meter-wise. 3. Solid damage across the board. Not the best, just overall solid. 4. A good strong attack too. And 5. Dead Calm. The fact that Gyu has a counter as a skill and the reward is a blue combo that you can start with a strong attack is just so strong. The damage he gets from a Dead Calm is some of the highest damage you can get in the entire game. And you may think it's not that big of a deal because everyone has a parry and everyone gets a blue combo. But no one in the game can cancel dashes into parries, which means Gyu actually has very strong neutral. You can catch an opponent trying to clash with you with a Dead Calm. And if you win that once in a match, you're winning every dash afterwards because the opponents will just be scared to clash with you. Gyu whiffed the move and the opponent is trying to punish it, cancel into Dead Calm. Gyu is a character that always feels unpunishable while he has meter. Plus, Water Dragon creates a ton of visual noise, makes it easy to hide tagged in characters with a grab or extra pressure. And his assists are both very solid too. Gyu just feels like he doesn't have any weaknesses, but you gotta be unpredictable with how you use Dead Calm. And because he has to play a lot of mind games and can't really just be oppressive and spam buttons, I don't think people see him as a top tier yet. But in my opinion, he really can do stuff that the rest of the cast just can't. As long as he has meter, he can play as risky as he wants, and if the opponent is trying to punish, it's always dangerous for them because Dead Calm. And finally, the number 1 character, I really have no doubts on this one. It is Nezuko 100%. High damage machine for less meter than most. Her heal bash is just better than Water Wheel. It may not reach as far, but that hitbox is ridiculous. It is also plus on block. It gives her a free combo on hit, and even if it whiffs, that punish window is super small. The claws come out super fast, the flying kick is armored, and because it can be a cinematic attack, it increases her combo damage like crazy. She has the best grab in the game. This thing deals way too much damage for how far she travels with it. And her buttons are all so good. She probably has the furthest advancing normal in the game. This thing feels like a small lariat. Look at how far it goes. Her assists to me are tied with Shinobu's for best assists in the game, and it just feels not only that this character doesn't have any weaknesses, everything she has is stronger than most of the roster. Her strong attack is probably her biggest weakness, but even that, it's not bad, it's just okay. And that's my tier list. A quick word on the Academy characters though. Demon Nezuko is better than Academy Nezuko. Academy Zenitsu and Shinobu, on the other hand, are slightly better. And that's all because of their ultimates. And yes, I did change my mind on Nezuko and Zenitsu if you caught one of my previous videos. Some of Academy Nezuko's routes into ultimate are auto-timed, while Demon Nezuko needs to delay a little bit. The thing is, these routes are no longer good, but a good route for ultimate is finishing your combo with a guard skill. And because of Demon Nezuko's speed, she can actually reach the opponent, while Academy Nezuko can only do this when she's near a wall. She loses about 500 damage with other routes, so that's pretty significant. Shinobu's routes are pretty much the same for both versions, but the Academy Ultimate has a bigger reach. So if you're just throwing it raw, this is more likely to hit. And Zenitsu's hitbox is just better, and it actually has an insane range. Regular Zenitsu may look like he zooms across the stage, but the range isn't that crazy. Academy, on the other hand, may have the biggest range on an ultimate. Every other Academy character is kind of the same, so it's up to personal preference in those cases. Now, I know how these videos usually go. You're free to disagree with this list, just keep it civil. And if for some reason this gets a million views like the Jump Force video, look, this is the launch patch. I don't know how things are gonna change in the future, okay? And don't forget about today's sponsor, Gamer Subs. Go get your tubs, your shakers, your waifu t-shirts, and use code Globku at checkout. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye!